Okay, hi guys, Mr. User Boss here, and welcome to my full review of the Redmi Note by Chinese manufacturer Xiaomi. So I've actually got the cheapest link on the whole internet in the description below, and that's from Dhgate.com. And that also includes a full year of warranty and free worldwide shipping, so yeah, pretty good buy. And I mean, I want to clarify something with this phone. It is amazing. This phone is by far the best phone I have ever seen for the price. And that, you know, it absolutely destroys phones like the OnePlus One and the Nexus 5, which are already absolute bargains. It's thin, it's light, and it's incredibly powerful, and it's got every single thing you'd want in a flagship device. And guess what? It actually costs less than phones like the Moto G, even the Moto E. It's sort of that kind of level of pricing, and it's just amazing. So, starting with the hardware, we have 3 individually backlit red LED capacitive buttons. Now these are so nice, and they're actually really responsive. All the buttons on the phone are slightly raised, so they're actually really easy to press. So actually, this phone runs MIUI, which is a very highly customized skin on Android. Now a lot of people say that, you know, the best way to experience Android is in its stock form, but actually, once you've tried something like this, you might change your mind. Everything is super slick, and you can tell that a lot of work has been gone into optimizing this software. Every single thing you do is accompanied by its own unique animation, and it all is very slick, and it actually reminds me a lot of the iPhone interface, but it has all the benefits of an Android device, you know, the ability to place widgets and do all the things that you actually want to do. Even if you didn't like this interface, you can always go ahead and install a third-party launcher, but honestly, I absolutely love it. I think it's actually, you know, it's got the most information, and it's probably better than any other manufacturer skin that I've ever seen, you know, including TouchWiz and LG software, and yeah, just about everything else. So I am blown away by the software, and a bit more on that later. But you know, you'll find ridiculous amounts of settings to toggle with, which just aren't present in normal Android. You can fully customize it as if it were a custom ROM, even though it's actually the stock one. But you know, MIUI really is something quite special. This device will also be receiving constant updates from Xiaomi themselves, so you know, you've really got nothing to worry about. So everything about this UI, right down to the lock screen, is really snazzy. So I mean, even on the lock screen itself, we actually have more options. You can actually double tap the lock button to actually open up a quick play music menu, so that can allow you from the lock screen to toggle on and off, play and pause, and skip tracks. I mean, for some reason they've even gone and redone the Android volume control. So taking a closer look at the screen, it is really beautiful. This phone has a 5.5-inch 720p IPS display, and let me just say, you have to see it to believe it. Right, so taking a look at the camera of the device, so this phone is actually packing a 13 megapixel ultra sharp camera, which is, again, in terms of specification, sounds very impressive. You know, it's very rare that you actually get a phone under the sort of £100 category with a camera like this. I mean, this is actually, in theory at least, as good as all the sort of Samsung Galaxy S5s, the iPhone 5Ss, and those kind of phones up there. So I mean, the camera UI is really smart, it's clean, and it's, you know, it's exactly what you sort of come to know and love with this phone. There's plenty of options, things like being able to toggle the, you know, the resolution of your photos, the actual image quality, and you will be blown away by the actual photos this thing can take. The detail is literally, it's eye-watering. You know, you zoom in and literally an unlimited amount, and you will still see really crisp images, and it's just something I'm not used to with my HTC One M8. It absolutely destroys my own phone, which is kind of embarrassing for me, but hey, I was just, you know, I can barely even get over this. And I mean, even in low lighting conditions like this shot, I mean, you can barely even tell. It looks like broad daylight, but actually it was under the shade, and you know, it was like 9 o'clock in the evening, so you know, it's just unbelievable. Right, so now we're going to do some gaming tests to see what the performance is like on the device. So the first game we're looking at is Dead Effect, and this is kind of like a Dead Trigger sort of esque game with a bit more sort of a horror element to it. So when you actually buy this phone, you'll have the choice to either get the 1GB RAM model or the 2GB RAM model, and both of them will have extremely fast octa-core processors, so either way you're going to get an incredibly smooth gaming experience. And as you can see, it's a smooth, flawless 60 frames per second, and this game looks really good. I mean, I would say it surpasses that of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Right, so game number 2 is Samurais vs Zombies, and this is like a kind of cartoon wars kind of style game where you sort of start from one end and try and progress to the other side of the map, and it's actually very, very strategic, and it looks amazing. This is a really, really graphically intensive game, and it runs, as you would expect, amazingly. Slightly more worryingly, this game actually did have occasional lag spikes on my HTC One M8, but it didn't on this phone, so yeah, that really is saying something. And you know, phones like the Qbot GT99, which I reviewed a while ago, also for around $150, it just can't handle this game, and this phone, it's just buttery smooth, and it's just powering through it. So you know, I've got no idea, you know, how they managed to do this, but the MTK processor in this thing, it's really doing its job. Okay, so the last game we're going to take a look at is Gun Club 3. So this is more of a simulation than an actual game in itself, but it does sort of have that gamey kind of element to it as well, and you're basically in like sort of a dynamic shooting range, similar to sort of those Call of Duty missions where you're on those time trials, that kind of thing. And I think it does get pretty repetitive, the game itself, but this is more just a demonstration just to show you how good it runs, and yeah, you can see for yourself, no explanation necessary. So now we're just going to take a look at the browser built into the device. So I mean, if you didn't like this one, or if it didn't work for you, you could always install a third-party one, but let me just say, I don't think you should do that, because this browser is probably the best. I'd actually say it works better than Google Chrome. I mean, just look how quick it is. The scrolling is also very smooth, and it has all the features you'd expect in a browser. For example, the ability to open multiple tabs and view desktop versions of pages. So yeah, this site and every single other site presents absolutely zero problem to the Redmi Note, so you're actually going to have a really enjoyable web browsing experience, and because the screen is so large, it's almost like using a tablet. Now, I don't normally do this, but I actually wanted to make a special mention to the built-in apps, because for once they're actually good. They're small in size, they're not filled with bloatware, and they just work. And you know, they've got nice elegant interfaces, and yeah, they're just very, very nice. So to start with, we've got the Note app, which you know, you can basically just set notes for yourself. So it's very, very straightforward, and you know, you can add different labels, different colors, and you can sort of arrange it in a way that you find usable. There's also a very, very nice, actually quite practical file manager, which sorts all your files by what they are rather than where they are, and it gives you a nice overview of all the sort of system storage available in different categories. So yeah, it's great. Now the weather is really, really impressive. I mean, it gives you detailed weather for now, the future, the past, and you can just search any city you want and it'll just give you a full detailed weather report. The calendar is something that I think a lot of people will actually be using, so it's worth mentioning as well. And it's nothing outstanding, but it again, it has every single feature you could think of in an easy to use interface, so what more do you want? So now we're actually going to do a quick sound test, and let me just say, this is one of the things I was seriously worried about, because let's face it, the speakers don't look like much. Okay, so that's the speakers. Now, they are not quite sort of HTC One M8 level, and I'd say they're probably not quite as good as the OnePlus Ones, but these are still very solid and above average speakers. Now, the video is really great. I mean, here we're watching a trailer for the Kung Fu Panda 2 movie, and I mean, just, yeah, observe.
Of awesomeness. My fist hungers for justice. That was my fist. Everybody was Kung Fu fighting! Kung Fu staring contest! Go!
Okay, so to conclude this video, buy the phone. Just do yourself a favour and buy the phone. It is that good. If you actually need a spare phone, or even if you just want another gadget to play with, this is amazing. It absolutely destroys 3D games, you know, it grinds them to a pulp. You've got this glorious 5.5-inch display, which is, you know, really, really nice size, because it really lets you appreciate media, and it acts like a tablet. You've got the incredible camera, the good speakers, and what more do I need to say? Just buy.